Recently online we've been hearing about a few problems with corner sharpness with Sony A7 series cameras and adapted wide angle lenses. What we thought we'd do was put this to the test both scientifically and unscientifically to see if this really is an issue or if this is just something that you've read on the internet. Okay, so we're here in Lightroom. We're just going to do a little bit of pixel peeping. What we've got here is we've got the Canon on the left and we have the Sony on the right. Now, obviously this is on YouTube and the video is going to be compressed, so these images will be made available on the article on the website, so you can download them and see them yourself. So, let's zoom in on that bottom right hand corner for a start. Now remember, the Canon is here on the left. Now if you look here, the amount more detail on here than on the Sony is significant. You know, that's quite a lot more detail. We're talking about the extreme corners here, and in real world use I honestly don't think this is an issue, but at 1:1 it is resolving a lot more detail. So let's come back, let's go up to the top right, and the same thing here. Look, we've got this knot here. Look at the amount of more detail on this one than here. That's crazy. Now there is some kind of white balance difference between these two, but nothing that's affecting the sharpness. If you can look at this line leading down here on the Canon, moving over onto the Sony, that is a problem. Arguably the Sony is sharper in the centre. In fact, I'd probably say it is. But that is an issue. So that's the right hand corner. Let's move out. How about the left hand corner? The same thing. Look at this knot here. This is nice and sharp here on the Canon, but not on the Sony. So okay, so that's one test. Okay, so that was stopped down to f8, but just for argument's sake and just for accuracy, we've tried the same lenses, same lens on different cameras in the same position on a tripod at f2.8. So let's zoom right in the centre. Now looking at this, to be honest, again the Sony on the right, the Canon on the left, it actually looks kind of noticeably sharper on the Sony on the right, on my screen here, which is a 4K calibrated monitor. But again, in real world, probably not really any difference. But looking at those corners, now it's not great on the Canon, as you would expect, wide open in the corners, but still acceptable. On the Sony, it's an absolute mess. That is terrible. That is, you're getting into the realms of unusable at 2.8. As we move back towards the centre, we're kind of alright. I mean, this area here, now we're at the bottom at the edge of the frame, but we've still got a good level of sharpness. Not here at all on the Sony. Moving back towards the centre, good levels of sharpness. Again, let's go the upper left. Yes, it's a problem. It's a problem. But that's 15mm, so let's try a different focal length. Okay, this time we've got the Sony on the left and the Canon on the right. Now this is at 24mm. Now this one is not perfectly the same. Unfortunately, switching the cameras, it's not perfectly the same, but it's going to give you enough of an idea. So let's go again in at 100% in the centre. Both are nice and sharp. Again, to be honest, I would give the edge slightly to the Sony here, but that's only just to my eye here. Let's go all the way out. Now at 24, I'm not really seeing any difference here at all. So 24 is still pretty wide. It's not super wide, but it's very wide, particularly on a full frame camera. And now I really can't see a difference here. Let's go up to the top here, looking at this knot here. I mean, arguably the Canon is closer to the centre here. Again, this is stopped down all the way to f8. You know what, at 24 I give that win to the Sony. Okay, so we're here at 50mm with the Canon on the left and the Sony on the right. This is with the classic Nifty 50, the 50 1.8 version 2, not the STM. This is not the new one. Let's go in on the centre. We're again stopped down to f8. Sharpness is great. To be honest, I mean, that is actually noticeably sharper on the Sony, this knot in the centre. But moving out towards the corners, it's the same. if not slightly sharper on the Sony. So what does this mean in real terms? Well, if you're shooting landscapes at 15mm, you are ideally going to want corner-to-corner sharpness. That is something you kind of strive for, and you buy it quite expensive glass for. And that Tamron is not a cheap lens. I know I've seen various other people on YouTube that have had lenses that have displayed the same artifacts on Sony cameras adapted. Okay, so we've identified there is a bit of a problem here. Now, that wide angle sharpness is important to some people. Most of the time my subjects aren't going to be in the extreme corners of the frame. However, a landscape shooter may turn around to me and say, well, I demand corner-to-corner sharpness from my lenses. If that's the case, you need to stay away from adapted wide-angle lenses if you want that optimum sharpness. What I would say at this time is there aren't really any native super wide-angle lenses for the Sony A7 series that are going to be great in the corners. That's probably with the exception of the Rokinon Samyang 14mm 2.8. That's a fantastic lens. What's causing this? I'm not too sure. Somebody probably a little bit more scientific than me is probably going to give us the answer down in the comments. But what I would say at this point in time is if you need optimum corner sharpness with super wide angle lenses, particularly with something around about 15mm, you need to be looking either Canon or Nikon. As always with these kinds of tests, the only thing we can say is these are only our tests. You may have a different experience on your camera. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and please subscribe for more content from me and Toby.